Come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. Never have to cut you off like right now. You see, I don't have to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me try to marijuana. I was loving you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they feelings changed. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip. Yeah, you plenty of.
Welcome to the Seahawks Man to Man podcast, powered by The Athletic. Shout out to the company. My name is Michael Sean Duga. I'm here with my co-host, Christopher Kidd. Make sure you follow us both up on the tweet machine. You guys know where to follow me. I'm verified. Got all that down already. Chris, talk to the people.
What is up, everybody? It's your boy, Christopher Kidd. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at CKIDD206 and that's CKID206.
All right, we have a special guest on the podcast this week, a short week as we prepare for Rams Seahawks in week 5. We have our favorite podcast guest, emphasis on favorite, extending her streak with the most podcast appearances as a guest. She covers the Rams for The Athletic. Jourdan Rodrigue is in the building. Jourdan, what's going on?
I'm so glad that you guys mentioned the streak because I'm very proud of that, to be honest with you. Like I have not missed one time and I am extremely proud of that. So The streak is alive and well and I am creating space behind me. So
yeah, I think you've got Matt Barrows that covers the Niners, who was on the pod last week. Shout out to Matt. You've got Matt by a few episodes here. So we are doing good. Before we dive into this rivalry week, Chris, can I embarrass Jourdan real quick?
Hey, do what you got to do.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't do what you're gonna do.
So
I know what you're gonna do.
You remember last time we had Jourdan?
Don't do what you're gonna do.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. You remember last time we had Jourdan on, right?
It was over the summer.
And I shouted Jourdan out as a finalist for the. She knows where I'm going with this.
Yes.
The Therese A. Paler Emerging Writer Award. Remember that?
Yes. I do, and she tried to flip it.
She downplayed the hell out of the award, guys. Downplayed the hell out of the award. Go check our last episode. It's in the early clip. Chris, do you know who won the Therese Paler Emerging Writer Award?
I think the initials are JR.
Yeah, I think you're right. So not only is she our favorite podcast guest, not only is she our leading podcast guest, our leader in podcast guest appearances, she is the winner of the inaugural Therese Paler Emerging Writer Award. We don't have the studio backing to add applause, but we'll just do it right there.
I can add to it. It's easy.
No, it's okay. It's a lot more fun if we do it that way. So there we go. Congrats on that. No speech? You can't get a speech?
Well, I'm sure you can see my cheeks are going right here, and so you did not put this to everyone watching and listening. They did not warn me about this, and that was intentional. And clearly for good reason because I'm getting so red right now, like it's hilarious. But I do want to say that any one of us who are nominated, yourself included, Mike, could have and should have won that award. And I think just want to shout out Therese. May he be resting peacefully. We miss him. Make sure you guys go donate to his foundation at Howard University. You can find it at Howard University in the gift section. Make sure you guys anyone listening wants to honor a great man and his legacy, please go donate to Howard University. Just a huge honor. But like I said, everybody who was nominated, yourself included, you should have won that too. So we all kind of share it.
See how we flipped that into got a good Therese shout out with the foundation. See that was a good thing, Jourdan. That's all right. See, you did good. It's okay. We had to start the show.
I'm still so red too.
I don't know how you could have thought we weren't going to mention that. I
didn't even think about it.
We're gonna get into some rivalry stuff here. We're gonna start though before we get into any rivalry stuff with all the trash talk last year. I want to talk about Stafford because we're big on quarterbacks on this show, and I usually ask, is the quarterback good? I've asked you that question before. I don't want to do that with Matthew because I feel like he is good. You can check the numbers. I've watched him. You've watched him. Like he is good. But specifically, what difference has he made in this offense?
Well, let me pull out my 70,000 page novel. No offense to anyone else who previously ran the offense, but I think first and foremost, the fact that you don't have to ask me that says a lot.
First time I think I haven't asked that, so that's good.
Yeah,
progress.
So that's a streak that can be broken. That's fine. But with Matthew, there's several phases of this, and I think we also have to kind of take out his performance in this last loss to Arizona. His specifically, we could focus on other facets of it where the Rams were not good, but specifically his, I think I've been kind of noting this since he got here. It's like, it's going to be a process. Like, he's putting the pieces together. Even his leading receiver in Cooper Kupp, still technically you only have thrown the ball to him 35 times in live action, or whatever his target share is right now, even though it seems high relative to the rest of the league. That's still live snap wise. That's still only, 30, 35 times. So putting that in context of they're still putting the pieces together. He's going to make mistakes. But that leads me to one of the most important things about bringing him in was how he problem solves in real time, and how he and Sean McVay collaborate in that problem solving, where you get the sense that there aren't no answers to things. There aren't answers to problems or questions that they face. No, we can't do that. We have to rule out that phase of the playbook. We have to rule out that section, rip those pages out. And you don't get that sense now. You get the sense that they're asking, well, why not now? Or could we try? Or how about we do this? And so that's a huge difference when it comes to how they're putting things together. You can really see him stacking pieces and stacking blocks together all throughout the spring and all throughout the summer. Not every day was pretty. There was a practice against the Raiders. He threw 3 interceptions. However, that Raiders defense, I think, surprised a lot of people. But still, you have a 3 interception day. The next day he comes out and he tears it up in a joint practice. And so it's one of those things where you can see where he is troubleshooting in real time, problem solving, and you can see the adjustments start to happen in game. The other side of that too, and maybe one of the, if not the most important thing, one of the most important things is everything he can do pre-snap and post-snap, not just with his alignment, not just physically, but with his mind as well. And that kind of ties into the troubleshooting and the problem solving, but also the way that he is able to activate all 5 eligibles on the field. The things that they can do, they don't have tendency tells anymore out of certain alignments. Like, for example, certain tendencies that the Rams started to show, particularly with Jared Goff, is, if he was under center, like if he would probably be play action pass or a run, right? Mm-hmm. And if he was in gun, you knew what was coming. Like, you pretty much knew every time they're in gun, and they very rarely ran sort of creative things or different things out of gun. The play action, he's turning his back to the defense every single time. Almost all except for 3 of his play action snaps since 2017 were from under center, which means he is literally flipping his back to the defense and then flipping around. Defense is started to learn and get wise to that and make things sort of murky while he was facing them, and then change really quick when he was not facing them, and just different pressures that could be activated and stuff. Well, now when you have a quarterback who is running a lot of stuff out of gun, at times not even dependent clearly on the play action. Against Tampa Bay, they barely ran any play action, and he just dropped back and threw it the hell downfield every single time. And so they're showing you that they're doing a lot of different things out of a lot of different alignments. But then you also factor in, well, Sean McVay is still going to run a lot of pre and post snap motion. He's still going to make a lot of things look the same and call plays in series and sort of pods. And you're still adding that element to the offense, but now you're sort of expanding all of the various offshoots that can come out of those sort of key foundational elements in Sean McVay's offense, and as well as some of the stuff that he's able to do with his arm, the different angles he can find, the way he throws guys open, the windows he finds, some of the ways he's able to hold safeties and linebackers with his eyes. I would say, again, ruling out this last game against Arizona, some of the things he was doing just creatively, I think were pretty telling of where this offense is moving, and I think they're pretty stoked about it.
I gotta ask about what happened on Sunday against the Cardinals.
Yeah,
he was not good. He was not good.
He was not good, and Seahawks fans are wondering, well, what the hell did the Cardinals do that made it such a tough day for him, or was it something that he just had a bad game? Which is definitely a possibility, where players come out and they have bad games, just like in the NBA. A lot of players have bad shooting nights for whatever the reason may be, but next game they come out hitting on all cylinders. What happened in that game? Was it something that he just had a bad game, or was the Cardinals scheme and what they had game planned really effective against him?
So a couple of things. I think their corner, Byron Murphy, is having a hell of a season, and he had one of the I haven't watched a ton of his games, but in terms of games of his I have watched, one of the best ones I've seen against Matthew Stafford, and the way he was reading receiver leverages and the way he read Deshaun Jackson, knowing full well that Deshaun Jackson would probably be able to have 1 to 2 steps and how to leverage that into kind of forcing Matthew to make a throw he didn't want to make. He talked to us after the game and he's like, there's 2 throws I could have made on that. I thought that Byron Murphy was coming over the top of Deshaun Jackson, and therefore he wanted to throw it, underthrow him a little bit. In my mind, I'm not a quarterback, never played quarterback. In my mind, just throw it as far as you can for Deshaun Jackson every time.
No, that's
Smart
a good
move.
plan.
That's my personal opinion.
That's what I would do. That's
Yeah.
what I would do.
But in this case, if you look at the way that Byron Murphy had like angled his body on the play, it looked like he was going to try to make a play over the top. And then at the last second, he broke underneath and was able to secure the interception on a throw that he sort of baited Matthew to take, which was very, very smart play. The rest of it, though, I really think that a lot of it, if not most of it, was just Matthew missing throws, missing his guys. They're still figuring out. One of the issues that happened was, on a crucial play, I think it was a 3rd down, Cooper Kupp like stumbled out of a break.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of continuing the motion forward with the throw, Matthew underthrew him because he thought he was going to hit the catch point was going to be at the stumble point instead of Cooper recovering and keeping going. And that's just stuff that you learn and you develop and you feel people out. And I think that's a process that's still happening. So that, and I also will disagree until I am, in the ground on some of the calls that were made as well. Okay. Some of the 4th down situations and some of the ways that they didn't help themselves in a crucial period. They lost like 21 win probability percentage in the second quarter off of things that Kyler Murray and the Cardinals were doing very, very well, but they could have made up some of that with some of the decision-making that they failed to do in terms of 7 passes on a failed drive, just different, not running the ball, just different things that they could have made decision-wise that I think just didn't happen. And that happened late in the game as well. And then Kyler, I know we're talking about the offense right now, but Kyler Murray, what a heck of a game.
That dude's a problem.
Holy crap.
He's a
I
problem.
mean, it was nuts watching that because what do you do? Even when their linebacker, who's like, he's fast laterally, like Kenny Young, he can move really well.
Is that 41? Is he 41?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And perfectly, did you see that play? Like perfectly
Yes.
diagnosed that long 3rd down. It was like a 3rd and 14. Perfectly diagnosed it, shed the clump in the box, like was able to not get caught up in the stack and like read the play all the way, knew Kyler was going to run the ball out to the sideline and was in perfect position. And then Kyler just hits that other gear that you're just like, oh no, devastation. Right. And so I think that some of the things, and I know we'll get to this in a minute, and he was able to really be selective and pick specific spots against the secondary where he wanted to put the ball, and they weren't able to dictate in that way based on the matchup. So I think that a lot of those things happen at once, but the offense could not make up for some of those lost angles, lost issues, lost moments on defense. And when Sean McVay brought in Matthew Stafford, the whole idea was, we know we're going to probably regress on defense a little bit because everybody does, especially if you run the number 1 system and then you have a complete turnover, like you probably are going to regress. But we need to bring in the quarterback who is going to sort of mask that regression and keep us in the green far enough to when we're in the red in other phases. But the offense could not do that. And Matthew Stafford, I think, and some of the drops and some of the things that didn't work execution-wise, some of the play calling that was questionable, I think it just was a perfect storm of a cacophony of errors is what I called it.
Ooh, cacophony.
Yeah.
Dang.
Good vocab. My English teacher in high school would be very proud. Shout out Miss States. She was like,
Miss States, okay.
See, I pulled that up. She was my favorite teacher. When I watched the Bucks game against Rams Bucks, that's when I saw what Jourdan just mentioned, that like there's some trust here with Matthew that was not there with Jared. Because you're right, there was no play action. It was just, hey, just throw it. I trust you. Like that is way
Step
different
back
than
and
having
shoot
to
it downfield, man. Go for it.
The kid gloves were on with Jared. Essentially, it was like, here, I'm a baby you, play action. Here's your first read. Just throw it. Robert's gonna be open. Now it's just like, dude, I don't care who you throw it to. You're so damn good. Like that, and then except for the Cardinals game where he was just missing guys. this is the part of this show we talk about Stafford with Seahawks fans are not gonna like, because it's a really good thing for Matthew that is probably most important this week with a quick turnaround, is you had a story about how how do I want to summarize this? It's basically about how Matthew rebounds from bad plays,
Right.
in particular. And this
That
is
a lot
what
of people yelled at me for.
wait, why do people yell at you? I thought that was really good. Why did you
No,
get yelled
I
at for that?
appreciate it. What, because I think people saw the graph and the data was presented as this was neither the data didn't make you a good quarterback overall in your career. The data point was representative of specific action after, like performance after critical error. And people saw the graph and they were like, Mark Sanchez is close to Stafford. This means this is terrible. I don't want that. But that wasn't what the graph was indicating in terms of overall. It was how you respond. Anyway, continue. Yeah, it was. I was like, no, stop yelling at me. I gotta.
Well, no, people. Oh wow. I mean, I guess I get that, but I mean,
can understand seeing that and being like, whoa, what? Yeah.
But I read the whole thing thinking this is really fascinating. I think Russell is very similar. I think I might have tweeted that actually. That Russell's pretty similar in that, like, when he has a mistake, he flushes it really well. It's like it never happened. At the same time, learning from the mistake. And this isn't, obviously you're not going from one play to the next, but he wasn't good on a Sunday and now he has to play on a Thursday. I don't know if the research said this, is Matthew the same way? Like, does he bounce back the same way after a bad game in totality? Does the number suggest that he does that well as well?
Yeah, and we looked at a big enough sample size to where it was 3+ plays post interception or post negative play. And so far, he's been aligning with that, not just himself, but I mean, he's only thrown, I think, 2 interceptions so far this year. But so it's small sample size, but then also performance after critical error in terms of the offense as a whole, the negative plays. What that does, having someone who does all the things that I described at the beginning of the podcast, the way that the McVay-Shanahan system works is you call plays in, like, I call them pods just because I think it's a funny word. And it's basically in series, right? And so each one connects with each other. So in the past, when you'd have a negative play, you'd have to scrap the pod and start over, right? And in this case, you can continue to build off of the series-based calls and continue to build a call menu, essentially, because you're not having to refresh and start over everything after an error. And so that's where you're seeing, to answer your question, where you're seeing some of that data start to show up is the things that they're still trying and still able to do following an error of that nature, not just an interception, but a negative play, a negative run play, something like that, because you have a less limited menu of options on the call sheet at this point following an error. And it matches perfectly with what Matthew has historically done, which is he has the highest completion percentage post interception. And it's funny because I'm a glass half full person, right? You guys know this about me. And I think, like, for me, I was like, oh, cool. That's, post interception. And then I was like, I get it. Because some people will look at this and be like, wow, that's a lot of interceptions to have.
There's that. There's that part of it too.
Yeah. So I get that. But I think it clearly was, I mean, it was just trying to extrapolate. And people only read 45% of the piece, by the way. We can see those things. So basically they stop at the graph and they get mad and then they comment. And then that's it.
Good analytics right
there.
They're
gone.
Yeah, that's good.
Like, we listen to the data over here. but yeah, no, it's to your point, like, you can see it so far. They're not feeling limited, and they're going out there and after a negative play or things that don't go well, and after this interception, now they could not put anything together in this Cardinals game. So again, I feel like that's a little bit of an outlier, but in general, when there have been adverse situations. And I think my best sample size comes from watching him in camp, because that's where they practice as live as they can within league parameters. And that's something that's been really, really important over the last couple of years. I don't know a lot of teams that practice in the same way, or haven't heard of a lot of teams that practice in the same way that they do in terms of the way that they style some of the competitive periods. They have this thing called the Mamba period that's hyper-paced, hyper-competitive period.
I like that. I was just about to say the same thing.
Mamba period.
I'm surprised Russ hasn't thought of that yet.
And it's interesting the way that they practice with tempo and aggression and they call things as if it were a live game, and they force the defense to respond in certain ways. And so watching that sample size, that defense would really stink to go against Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. You're like, wait, these guys are on my team. I don't want to play against them. But doing that so frequently throughout the course and particularly in condensed portions of the field to compound that competition level and that energy, that's where I saw it start to make a difference. I remember the beginning of training camp, their first red period where they went best on best. And Jalen Ramsey made an insane play to pick off Matthew on a ball intended for who else? Cooper Kupp, and ran it all the way back, flipped it to Aaron Donald, who then somersaulted into the end zone. And it was just so much flair and flourish and everything. Well, Matthew Stafford comes back and starts to deal, and he sets up 2 plays, 2 touchdowns in the red period to the same corner of the end zone. I was standing right there in that corner, 2 plays through heavy traffic where Cooper was his second read. And then the other time was his third read. And so that our data also showed that he goes to his more complex read or hit later in the progression following an interception at a higher rate than all but 3 other quarterbacks in that sample size that we pulled. So he's basically daring the defense to make him make a play, or he's daring the defense to show him a similar look. Or bait him into a similar look, and he's going to make the other look. And that's what he did in this red period. Was he set up, and again, remember they're in series. The play calls are in series, so it's a pod, right? So he sets up two of the 3 in the series, and he sets Cooper up on one side, and then he looks to that corner of the end zone and has a no-look pass over the top to Darrell Henderson for a touchdown. And that was the first time I've ever stared down the barrel of one of those things in person. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, that dude, he's different. He's definitely got arm talent.
But
That's
it's
what arm
probably
talent
what
is.
you guys feel watching Russell Wilson every day in practice. Like, I mean, it's just, I'm not sure if you would get used to it after a while, but it's just, that level, that standard that's set every single day.
So, Chris, I want to talk about the rivalry a little bit.
Here we go.
I just want to recap it a little bit.
I'm gonna get tweeted at now again.
You won't.
You do this to me every time.
I just want to recap it a little bit because I wrote a story. By the time people hear this, now it'll be out. I just wanted to run it down for everyone because I forgot all the tweets from the Seahawks players. I remember what the Rams said. So for the brief rundown,
this
Jourdan
is good.
Rodrigue.
I need this refresher. Yeah.
I had to go find some old tweets and stuff to old videos. So when the Seahawks beat the Rams in Week 16. The clinch of division. That's when DJ Reed, cornerback for the Seahawks, is on the sideline. Like, I need my hat and shirt. He's like, I need my hat and shirt. I don't know why he was so excited about a T-shirt, but it symbolized that they won the NFC West. And Jamal Adams yells to the camera, says, I need my cigar. Where is my cigar at? And then he lights a cigar in his press conference, which I didn't think it was that disrespectful at the time. But it wasn't until after the wild card game when Jalen Ramsey screams, I got it written right here. He says they can take their hats and shirts to Cabo. Yeah. There's someone else on the screen. I can't remember who it is. He says, yeah, and they can keep their cigars too. And then Jalen adds, they can keep their little hats and T-shirts. Someone says, we sent their ass home. Says they can go to Cabo for the rest of the offseason. And see, it didn't hit me. I don't know if it hit you guys how disrespectful the smoking of the cigar was.
Well,
that didn't feel like anything in real time, right?
I think of championship. You won it all when you smoke the cigar.
That's true.
There are a lot of iconic images when there's national champions, NBA finals. That's when you light the cigar.
That's true.
But to Jamal's point, he was fair. He's never made it to the postseason, let alone won anything. So for him, that was his cigar moment. Maybe now that he understands that if the Seahawks do win the division, he won't do that. He'll just be like, on to the next. But that was his first taste of, this is what it's like. Success. I get it. Was he wrong? Yeah.
What did you think in real time, Jordan, seeing that?
I just thought, gonna get the popcorn out. Like, just because, I mean, I don't care. Celebrate how you want to celebrate. Like, I don't, I'm not the one playing. If I'm the one playing, then,
Yeah.
The thing that I find so great about all of this, and Mike, I know I've talked to you about this before. These guys pretend they don't look at anything, but they see everything.
See all of it.
Everything.
KJ Wright's a great example. We were talking mess. We were just saying he's a little old. We were like, we don't know if KJ can do this. This was 2 years ago.
Yeah, we said he had bad knees during free agency. He did not like that.
He got on Twitter and was like, I need to come on your pod. Yeah. We were like, oh, bet. The doors are always open.
We'd love to have you. Yeah.
Since then, we've built a good relationship. We understand where he's coming from. But when you said players read and see and hear everything, we attest to that 100%.
So this continued after
Yes.
I mean, the Rams season ends a week later. I mean, it didn't they didn't march on
Come to Cabo
to the
too.
Super Bowl. Yeah. So let's see. After that, Quandre Diggs, he tweets, "Don't worry, this Cabo sun will thaw y'all out." Remember, it was cold in Green Bay. He said, "This Cabo sun will thaw y'all out. Make sure buddy with the foggy glasses comes too."
Oh,
I meant to ask you.
I wonder who that. Yeah,
You don't know
now
who that is?
I don't know who that is. I wonder who that's about.
I'm gonna.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of who wears. I don't know who wears glasses on the team. I will say though. This all came full circle for the Rams, and not in a way where it will on Thursday. It came full circle for the Rams because where did Sean McVay force a trade for Matthew Stafford in the offseason?
Oh, I didn't even put
with
that
Matthew
together.
Stafford at the same hotel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
In Cabo.
Wow.
Damn.
Wow.
Can someone say bring the hammer?
I didn't even put that. Wow, that's a mic drop almost. But
so it all came full circle.
It continues a little. Jamal Adams also says, "See y'all in Cabo." He actually tagged the Rams Twitter,
which is wild.
Yeah, that's
a bold move. Yeah.
He also added, which was my favorite comment, perhaps, in all of this. He says, "Make sure y'all bring your own damn cigars too." That was great. And then I asked Jamal the day actually he got his contract. I said, "Are you looking forward to the Rams matchup?" Because that was the first time I had talked to him since that tweet. Get there. It was 8 minutes. It was 8 months later, but it was still on my mind because I remembered that particular comment. He said, "When do we see him? Week 5?" Yep. We'll see him then. And that was kind of it. I asked him about after they beat the Niners, and he kind of played it off. Because I think they've kind of understood, like, hey, let's not be out there like that again.
Give any roasting opportunity. Because if it goes wrong, I mean, the social media teams out here are ruthless. I am terrified. I'm going to wake up one day and someone has taken, like, some sort of message I've conveyed from a coach into the Twitter world and used it in a like, celebration video or something. Like, some of these things, I think the Saints had one against the Packers or something happened. I think it was Saints-Packers. The Saints had one where a writer had like communicated something that a coach or a player had said, or maybe it was his own opinion, and they used it in the victory tweet. And I was like, that's my worst fear right there.
Yeah, that's or when the team account like shows the predictions and they just put they have some snarky emoji or something.
You're
like
in
that.
those. You do those for us. You do.
Yeah,
I
do the expert predictions. Yeah, that could get, hopefully they don't.
The Chargers got you. I don't know if you saw that.
You hope they don't find you.
Did the Chargers get me?
The Chargers got you 2 weeks ago, and I was like, I did the Leo DiCaprio pointing at the screen thing. But it was a group. Chiefs. Yeah, it was a group. You were with a bunch of other people, so you weren't the only one.
Yeah, I didn't. It's totally off topic, but since you mentioned the Chargers, did you guys see the Chargers tweet when they beat the Raiders?
Yes, great tweet.
Just one, baby.
Great. It was great.
They had a couple of really good ones out there.
They're on a roll right now.
Yeah, their Twitter account's good.
Yeah.
Them and the Panthers have really good.
Panthers are good. Yeah.
Twitter accounts. One more on the rivalry. Jamal Adams was asked, like, "Hey, you sure the Cabo stuff ain't bothering you?" He was like, "Nah. At the end of the day, they was at Cabo with us." And they actually literally were, because that's where the coach got Stafford. I didn't know that. That's like, wow, I'm
gonna improve my team in Cabo.
This is good. That's like my
joke's
favorite.
on you. Joke's on you. I'm gonna improve my team.
Cabo's a place to be. Chris, we should go to Cabo.
Man, what's gonna happen? We'll have 1 million subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah, we should do a show
in Cabo
with Jalen Ramsey and DK Metcalf. Actually, that should be our 2 guests.
That would be quite the show.
That's a perfect segue into the best matchup here. I mean, it's Aaron Donald and Russell are probably the 2 best players in this game. Yeah, probably. Yeah, let's go with that. Mm-hmm. But they don't face each other directly as much as it's just Aaron stomping on Russell's face every now and again. That's usually the extent of their embraces. Whereas Jalen and DK spend a lot of time going up against each other. I'm going to read some numbers here. I don't like to read a ton of numbers on the show, but this is fun.
This is the most fun matchup we'll see. I mean, it's so fun. I mean, we get so excited over this every year.
Because DK is so good.
Yeah.
And he averages, like, I think I looked it up. He averages 72 yards a game for his career and 4.5 yards a catch per game, including the playoffs. He averages 28 yards against Jalen Ramsey and 2.2 catches per game in 4 career games against Jalen. That is absurd. Think about that. Like And he doesn't have a
drop.
touchdown. He doesn't have a touchdown against Jalen at all.
Yeah, that's a drop, all right. My
that is
goodness.
Yeah.
So he had 5 targets, 5 catches, 69 yards, 2 first downs in their first matchup. That was in Sunday Night Football. Rams just boat raced the Seahawks, 28-12. Seahawks didn't even score a touchdown on offense. Week 10 last year down in LA, 2 targets, donut, man.
That was rough. And that's when we talked about how to get him open. Move him around. Don't have him standing there.
Oh, we're gonna get to how the Rams have
Yes,
now countered that.
Remember,
absolutely.
that was when the light bulb finally went off. People were writing about this, and we're doing such a great job writing about it. But in terms of visualizing it and what the success could be of the production, that was when like the entire world started to wake up to the fact that the Rams were pattern matching and they were matching routes when they were coming down, like playing from depth, because that was the one where Darius Williams had the pick 6 off the screen, off the bubble screen, where they tried to sort of stack DK away. And that was one where I was like, I don't think I've ever seen a pick 6 off a screen like that before, where the corner comes all the way down from the overhang, and like, because you don't risk it usually, but then he said, and then he was talking about how they literally did that, played that exact same play in practice and all of this. And I was like, yeah, because they're pattern matching. Brandon Staley's gonna leave now. So,
yeah, no, Brandon Staley broke the Seahawks. So I want to put that out.
I break your spirit and then your body.
There's a few dudes that hit the unemployment line almost solely because the Seahawks played the Rams 3 times in 9 weeks. I'm not even joking. Like
that was so rough, wasn't it, last year? Those were some matchups though.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that run of 3 games in 9 weeks against the Rams might have caused Mike Iupati to retire. Like, I
can't do this anymore, guys.
Like 3 weeks, there 3 games in 9 weeks against Aaron Donald. I'm out of here too, and they also played the Niners
after the first 15 minutes. Hey man, I think I'm up.
Yeah, I just sit down on the field. I'm like,
Yeah, no, I'd retire as well to finish up Jalen. In the last 2 matchups, he totaled 8 targets. This is all against. Just DK's numbers against Jalen, not for the games, because you guys are going to people are going to look up the numbers and be like, wait, DK scored 2 touchdowns in the wild card
not
game.
against Jalen.
Not against Jalen. Okay, that's very important. That's the matchup here. 8 targets, 4 catches, 44 yards, 1 first down. Ramsey has 2 pass breakups. In he's almost getting his hands on the ball as much as DK. At least half as often.
And he plays.
When you put it like that, that is brutal.
Yeah, no, Jalen's real. He is real. I think he should be higher on the top 100. I think he was number 13. I think he's a top 10 player, if not higher. Now, Jordan, can you tell us about the star position that they have Jalen playing? Because he's not just be on the outside against the other team's best X receiver outside the numbers. He's everywhere. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I'll get to a little mini rant here in a minute based on this Cardinals game. But the star, I mean, everyone plays some version of it. And certainly in college, everyone plays some version of it. But what Brandon Staley's version of the star was supposed to do, and how they've sort of evolved deeper in the playbook that they knew was his evolution plan for the position, even with him out of the building now and Raheem Morris has taken over, is the top corner, in this case, Jalen Ramsey, can move with almost like near autonomy. And it's not like he's just saying, I'm going to move, so here I go. But he can cover a wider space on the field. The idea is, if I wouldn't call it even really necessarily a true slot position, because he is moving so frequently into different coverage spaces, whether they're in zone or man or whatever kind of their leverages are. And he's blitzing a little bit, which I think is that is where you see Raheem Morris's wrinkles come in terms of we know he really likes to design pressure. So Brandon Staley, not so much. So that's where you see specifically the difference in the wrinkles. But the star position, it almost is a position that it's been around forever, but it can really evolve as the player does. And it really matches sort of the thumbprint of what the player wants to leave on the defense, in the sense where we talked, I remember last year, all year, about how the coverage solar system sort of just orbits around Jalen. Well, that's not been more true than this year, because you're rotating guys around wherever he is on the field. And on the one hand, that's intended to get him closer to the ball on every snap, not just passing downs. He is one of the few corners in the league that can affect the run in the way that he so physically does. He can tackle in space better than most players I've ever seen. And at times, they're even having him come off the edge and all of that, which I'd rather have him in a passing down, like on the receiver personally, but they're trying it, and he got very close to Tom Brady on a couple of snaps. So and then when he is in the star, and the idea is not put him in the slot, leave him in the slot against the slot receiver. That's the big misconception that I'm sort of dealing with right now in terms of reaction from the Cardinals game, because it's not, hey, he's the slot player now. It's, if the best receiver is in the slot, he is the slot defender.
Right. Which makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Right. And when that best player either motions away from the slot, motions somewhere, or aligns elsewhere, because almost, all of the top, most high-powered offensive teams now have receivers who can do a variety of things, and some even have tight ends who can do a variety of things. But you're going to have receivers who don't just stick out on the outside in the X and just run downfield every time. And by moving the receiver around, it was a mathematical advantage for an offense to be able to do that, because you're creating your own leverages, your own +1s against a defense who has to figure out how to cover that player from various places on the field. You don't necessarily always have the defenders for. With Jalen, by allowing him to play this position, you're creating a +2 against that +1, because he can be in the slot as needed. He can be outside as needed. And then he can move in run support. He can go wherever that receiver goes, but he also can contain more space around the field. And I kind of look at it as like, I visualize it as like it's like a radius around him, right? And the quarterback is always going to try to fit the ball away from where that giant aura is around him, right? Because he has such a wide range for coverage. The quarterback's going to try to put the ball well away from that. And when you allow him to widen his coverage range, whether it's close to the line of scrimmage, so he's affecting the flat, he's affecting some of the short game stuff that teams have to ultimately do against the Rams because they put a roof over the back of the defense. When you're allowing him to affect the flat just as much as you're allowing to affect the outside, you have very limited places where you can put the ball. Kyler Murray was very effective in exploiting those very limited spaces, not only because they have two really tall receivers that they could put on the outsides, they also have effective interior players, and Kyler Murray, and Chase Edmonds, who you can use effectively. So they then recreated the mathematical advantage and picked on David Long all day because he is 5'10" and AJ Green is like 6'4" and healthy. And so back to my point, he basically helps revert, not only neutralize what an offensive mathematical advantage was, but he adds a +1 on the defensive side in being able to do that. And so when people say, no, I need to see Jalen on the outside isolated against the top receiver. The top receiver's not staying on the outside anymore.
Not anymore. Nope.
And so you can't, if you keep him in one spot, you give the quarterback the ability to ignore him the entire game. And you see in his target share, I'm in True Media, shout out to The Athletic. We're in True Media right now. And he is being targeted at a higher rate of frequency than he has been for like the last 3 seasons. Already so far in terms of the frequency rate so far in the season, he's affecting more passes. And that's exactly what they were hoping to do. Now, the other side of that predicates on your other corners playing well and breaking up passes and being stout matchups against whichever sort of the coaches will scheme someone else on these guys in hopes that this is where they will have success, and particularly when it's outside the numbers. And that's where you saw the Cardinals have a ton of success, because David Long was not making those plays. And the Rams put that, it's kind of their fault too, because they put that on tape against the Cowboys. Because Cowboys sent every receiver they had who was over 6 feet out on the outside against David Long and broadcasted it on the Cowboys.com and exploited that. And so you just see Cliff Kingsbury like rubbing his hand. I didn't mean it in a mean way.
They put that man on the Summer Jam screen.
Literally, like Raheem Morris brought it up in his press conference today. And it's just it's a fluid situation. But basically, if you have any length on the outside at receiver, more than one player, then that's how teams will try to again flip this mathematical advantage that I've been talking about with Jalen. But the thing about Jalen is that it's not like he's going to be forced to stay in the slot or close to the line of scrimmage. He will travel with DK Metcalf in parts of this game. It's just that if the Rams have a read on a play, like again, they're still playing visually and they're still route matching and they're still doing all of these different things. If they have a read on a play where they don't believe the ball is, and they could be wrong sometimes. They were wrong on Sunday against Arizona a couple times. If they don't believe the ball is going to DK Metcalf, particularly in crucial patching situations, then you'll see him maybe aligned elsewhere, and then they'll try to sort of trip up Russell Wilson and Shane Waldron in those ways. So it's going to be interesting. That was my rant. It's done. But
Perfect.
I mean, it's just a fascinating and the way that position will continue to evolve. And then if they don't have the personnel to fix some of the problems that you saw on Sunday, they're going to have to revert to something a lot more simplified, which is not what they want to do in terms of pushing this defense forward.
You did mention what Raheem Morris said earlier on Wednesday regarding some of the play in the secondary. However, there might be some changes outside of what you mentioned with what Ramsey's doing right now this season. With that being said, is that a concern for the secondary as they're going up against this Seahawks offense that they're up and down? They started really bad, really poorly on Sunday, but they're looking to bounce back against this Rams defense, which is still pretty good, especially what they have up front. But would you say this is a concern for maybe the entire season, or maybe just this matchup in general with DK, Tyler Lockett, Freddie Swain, and now that D.S. Gridge is healthy coming back from his concussion injury?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one they have to answer in a short week, right? Because they put it on tape that if you have more than one athletic, lengthy receiver and you scheme him up against a specific player who's not making plays on the ball, maybe at the rate that they had hoped that he would, then that's your go every single time. And particularly what was the problem as well was that Kyler was able to select those pretty much scientifically and at will. And part of that was because the pressure wasn't getting there, particularly up the middle. And they had a good plan for Aaron Donald that game. And whoever the Cardinals interior linemen were that game probably tripled their game check just in one game. Yeah,
the Cardinals were really sharp in that game.
Yeah, they played like the game. I mean, they this first time in six matchups they beat Sean McVay, so they played their butts off. Yeah, so definitely credit to them. But I think it's a problem because if you have versatile receivers like most teams in the NFC West do now, and particularly you have some size and maybe some length, and you can scheme away. It's such a small sliver of space that you have where Darius Williams and Jalen Ramsey are not. But if you can find it and then the quarterback can pick at it at will, or even selectively in important spots, that's where you run into a huge problem. So Raheem Morris, and to your question, Raheem Morris was talking about that today. And I straight up asked him, I said, what's the line you walk between getting guys settled in and into a rhythm and knowing that they have to grow with live snaps and making changes? And he was talking about how everybody's being evaluated all the time, even on a short week. And then another reporter said, "So how's David Long doing?"
Oh, and man. Who said the quiet part out loud?
And Raheem Morris was like, that was the most obvious setup question of all time, which was fair because it was. And he basically put David Long on notice, but he did it in a way where I thought was still supportive of who David is as a player and his growth process. And I put it out, the transcript of that out on my Twitter. If anybody listening to this or watching this is interested, I thought if he had to put a player on notice, which clearly he felt he had to, because otherwise he could have pulled what the Sean McVay move always is, which is like put it back on himself every time and say something like, I've got to put our guys in a position to be successful. But instead, what he'd said was that, David Long, they saw that he had a bad practice, and that was the one that he was referring to, was that Cowboys practice. And then he came back, he bounced back and was better, and he was. And then he said, basically, there are guys that will be competing with him for the job. And I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but he also said it in a way that expressed his belief in the continued growth process of David. The complication that comes into this is that the rookie who is directly behind David on the roster, Robert Rochelle, he's a 4th round pick. And Raheem Morris told the staff before the draft that there would be, 5-6 defensive players that he personally had on his list that would, if selected, get him to jump fully clothed into the pool at the Malibu Draft House. And Robert Rochelle was one of those players.
Numero uno.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And also
fully
they
clothed,
ran.
you said, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if it
Okay.
happened or not. No one will answer me. I doubt it happened, honestly. I think it's just this thing coaches say when they're fired up. But like it's interesting when you bring that dynamic into it, because then you also I did a scouting series on their 4th round picks, because these are the guys who they really this new age scouting and development process, and where the things they intersect in terms of analytics and then the scouting process and personnel. And the 4th round is where they really have to hit on these prospects based on their team building model, because they have no picks until I'm a very old woman. And so you have to hit on those 4th rounders. And so the way that they've overhauled their process in doing so is fascinating. Robert Rochelle was one of those guys, and they put his measurables, and it's not really things like a 40 time. It's things like GPS tracking data, certain ways that they measure explosiveness in terms of lateral movement and the high jump, things like that, vertical jump, and the power gradients and measurements that you have, and all that sort of things that they can get now. And they put it into an algorithm, and it's called JARS, and it's a giant data pool that they've been building over every single defensive back that they've evaluated. They've got 5,000 guys in there since 2017. And you basically can juxtapose his measurables against all of those guys and come up with a build of a digital, like a virtual build of who this guy is and what he could project into. And there were only 4 other guys that in there, or 3 other guys, it might have been 4. I don't know. It's in the piece. I wrote it way back in the spring. There's only a couple other guys that satisfied all of the variables asked of this algorithm in this query. One of them was Jalen Ramsey. Another one was Derwin James. And so that was the player comparable that they had off Robert Rochelle. And so this complicates things, because he is a rookie, but he's got a ton of potential that they see. He is extremely talented. But what do? Do you go with the guy who's you certainly think he will make mistakes as a rookie? Or do you go with the guy that now teams will target because it's on tape? You know what I mean?
Tough.
Yeah, that's tough for David Long. I don't even know this David Long guy.
I feel for him. He's a great dude. Like, and he works really, really hard. And it stinks when you see stuff like this happen. But it's not a good matchup. Like you can't. The Rams put him on the outside with AJ Green.
Yeah.
Like you can't. It's just not favorable.
He's getting the short hand of the stick.
He's getting
literally.
the Trey Flowers treatment. It sounds like he's the Trey Flowers of the Rams.
Unfortunately,
I got all fired up talking about scouting. I'm all red now.
No, I did. I liked that piece too. I think we talked about it last time you were on the show too. Like it's a combination of numbers, but also like they're just doing team building the right way. I think with the Rams, we'll see though, because if this Rochelle dude makes his first start against like Russell Wilson, that could be like he might get put on the summer jam screen too. I mean, that's really why I feel bad for this David Long cat. Like that's Pete.
Don't feel too bad. Don't feel too bad for him, because he's getting paid to play a game he loves. He has an opportunity, so don't feel too bad.
But I don't feel that bad. I'm not gonna give him a hug, but COVID. But like the other thing is like that is Pete Carroll's probably main fear with the joint practices is putting some of that stuff
on tape.
Especially that's his fear for Hard Knocks too. It's like a double whammy, honestly. Like Pete Carroll probably hear all that and be like, okay, hell no. That's why we won't put ourselves on Hard Knocks. That's why we won't do joint practices. That's the argument there. Well, I'm button up the Jalen Ramsey thing real quick before we move to Cooper Kupp. King deceptive speed.
King everything.
Yeah, he's mostly king deceptive speed. Although Hunter Renfrow is competing for the job lately. Hearing Jourdan talk about how they're using Jalen that's how you use a guy you give $20 million to a year. Like you maximize the ways
who
that
could you be referencing here?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, so I
starts with a J, ends with an A.
I don't say that to slight with the Jamal in particular, but I do think actually when I watch Jamal and how the Seahawks are using him, how they're using Jalen in LA, it actually is kind of similar the way Jamal plays the flat. He's in the run fits, he blitzes, obviously a lot more than Jalen. He actually plays middle of the field, safety too, too high safety, hook the curl guy. Like he actually does a lot of stuff. Like it's a similar thinking. You give a guy a lot of money, put him in the middle of the field. The difference is Jalen's a really good cover guy, man to man, and Jamal's a good blitzer. But you can see why both of those guys were first round picks, top 10 picks.
Yeah.
Top 6 picks, I believe. They both were. So
yeah, and gone are the days where those guys are doing one thing. Like defenses are changing faster than ever. And so now it's like you build a back half around what those guys can do, not just putting them in what you already have.
Exactly.
And especially if you're going to make, if you're going to have that money paid out. And it's kind of the same you see with receivers and tight ends now. It's like, no. And running backs who still get paid, right? Like
Yep.
when Christian McCaffrey got paid, the argument they made was you can't not pay him because you asked him to also be a receiver.
Yeah.
So it's interesting the way that goes.
Yeah, I think the Seahawks are using Jamal the right way, but I hear the Jalen stuff, and it's actually very similar thinking. It's put our guy as close to the ball as we possibly can.
Let him make plays.
Which it's called football. Put your guy near the ball. Like at the end of the day, football is not that. It's a numbers game, and it's put your best players near the ball on offense and defense. That's the goal. Like 90% of the time. And
I have one more bone to pick with this, with some of the stuff that I've been seeing after this Cardinals game too. It doesn't, like, the entire Rams defense, we talked about this so much, is that it's predicated to stop the explosive pass first and foremost. But when your guys are getting picked on the outside and, giving up, one of them's giving up multiple explosive passing plays on one drive, the reason why it also is so effective to have Jalen Ramsey closer to the line of scrimmage and moving in that entire area, not just on one side of the field, but the entire closer to the line of scrimmage area of the field, like moving sideline to sideline as much as possible and doing some of these things, is that when teams were contained by that roof that they put over the back and those two eye shells that rotate and things like that, and the overhang corners, teams had to take the option that they didn't necessarily want to take, which often would be the short pass or the check down. And that you have to do that. If this defense is working the way that it should, you have to do that. Well, guess what? If you have to take that pass and you have no other option to you because the roof over the back is working so well, and now you have to take the pass like right directly in front of you, who is there now? Jalen Ramsey.
Exactly.
And it's just like, so it's just, that's the point of it, but it doesn't work when they're giving up the explosive passing play so blatantly in that regard. So that's 3 days to solve that problem, guys. Good luck. So
thanks. Raheem Morris said, I think it was in one of your pieces that it's like, where's Waldo locating Jalen Ramsey prior to this? And it is. It's like when you watch the film, it's like, wait, where's he at? Oh, okay, he's over here. No, that's how it should.
Important.
That's how it should be. I do think the Seahawks are using Jamal that way. To be clear, not a dig. It also sounds like before we get to Kupp, you were getting some very heavy pushback here after the Cardinals game.
No, I'm not. I'm personally not. But I also think like it's like, I don't think that their plan for him is wrong. Basically, like I think that there are it's not just about one plan for one guy. Other pieces were not executing the way that they should. And that doesn't exclude the pass rush because it was not getting there against Kyler Murray. And so when that happens, people tend to want to say like, why don't you write that someone should be fired? Or why don't you write that someone, right? And you're just like, well, that's because that's not, like, I mean, you've dealt with it. I'm not tough enough to do this job.
You're very tough.
Yeah, you gotta you got to know your stuff to write that someone should be fired. I think, especially a coach, because we just don't know what goes on in those meetings, like who's at fault for what, who blew the call, or what, what's a position coach's role in it. Here in Seattle, Pete Carroll controls so much of the defense. So if the defense is struggling, is that a Ken Norton Jr. thing? Is that a position coach thing? Is that a Pete thing? It's hard to isolate one specific guy. You got to really know your stuff. Now, calling a guy to get benched, that's not that hard. That's not that. Especially you're a corner just getting beat deep.
I'm watching.
And I still didn't do that. I just presented the facts, and Raheem Morris kind of said a lot of things today and in the press conference. So we'll see how it goes. But I think for me, it's like I care. Like it's the philosophy behind this defense is really, really smart, and it's what people will be moving into. And so it's important that, like, to me, it's like I'm trying to communicate. It's not like I'm saying like, yeah, this is the perfect way to do things every time, but I try to, at least I'm trying to communicate like, this is why they think that this works, and they get paid to do it. So I'm I think it's a good plan so far. We'll see. Other guys get paid to do different things that don't
offensive
work.
coordinators get paid too, and and there's only one Kyler Murray, so there's also there's also that. All right, let's get into King Deceptive Speed.
Well, the Raiders are definitely copying what the Rams are doing. They're getting smart. They have a wide receiver with deceptive speed, and his name is Hunter Winfrow. People are like, who?
Third and Renfro. He's got his own
Third and Renfro. Yes,
down
third
distance
down, you know to
nickname.
go. Cooper Kupp, man. Personally, I've been on Cooper Kupp since after watching him destroy WSU. I was like, he's gonna be pretty good in the NFL.
We didn't have to bring that up,
Mike. I have to.
No, I just literally said we did not have to.
I have to be honest with our viewers, our listeners, and let them know that is when I said this white boy different.
He is. He had like 200 yards that game.
He is talented, and I think he's going to be pivotal in the league, and he's done just that. 2019 was his breakout season. If you look at his stats from 2019 to right now, he is supposed to wash that, not to mention season's one game longer this year. With what Cooper Kupp is doing, you mentioned that Matthew Stafford was just missing throws, and he just had a rough game plan. But you did mention Byron Murphy played pretty well. With that, is there a chance that Cooper has another off day where they're not on the same page? Or do you think, sorry, Chris, Cooper, Matthew Stafford, they're going to be hitting on all cylinders? Good luck with your cornerback situation because the Seahawks just brought in Sidney to come in and start over Trey Flowers, and that didn't work out great. He gave up 2 touchdowns his first stint out there, and now he has a chance to go. He's going up against the Rams offense, and they do a lot of pre-snap motion. Robert Woods is a problem. Deshaun Jackson can find his way 80 yards down the field for a touchdown. And then you have Cooper Kupp. Game plan against Kupp. Is there anything the Seahawks can do?
Yeah, every time I think now of Deshaun Jackson, I'm like, Deshaun Jackson, still fast.
Yeah, facts.
He will be till he's like 70.
Yes.
He's going to be playing until he's 45.
Yeah, and he's just going to be running streaks at age 45.
Straight down the field, still fast. Yeah. You know what? It's with Cooper. And he had an off game too. Like he dropped a couple of passes as well. I don't really, you don't see that often from him back to back. You don't see it in general really against him, but especially back to back. I think the smart game plan would be to act as if he would have the same kind of production that he had been having prior to the Cardinals game, and game plan for him. The problem with that, and it kind of the flip of what we were just talking about with the Rams defense, is the flip now with the Rams offense. They have so many complementary receivers now, and they can build so many layers on the field. They can clog you up in one side and spring a guy on the other side. They're throwing the ball downfield from a variety of looks at this point.
Oh, Jared Goff's gone. Okay.
Yeah, they're letting it fly over there.
Like, okay, start there and move forward. Yeah. And they've got guys who are they've got 3 guys on the roster who are running a full route tree in terms of Van Jefferson, Robert Woods, and Cooper Kupp. They're sending all of those guys on deep routes. They're sending them on intermediates. They're sending them on short stuff. They're pulling Cooper out of the backfield. Robert Woods is going on sweeps and out of the backfield. Like, it's crazy over there.
And they all can block for the most part.
And they all
too.
block, and all these things. And like Cooper Kupp was like matched 1-on-1 with Robert Quinn and blocked him out of the play. Like it just was, on that Van Jefferson touchdown. It just was when things are clicking. So it, of course, a lot of it depends on the quarterback, but in terms of the layers they're building, I think that structure is by nature going to give teams a hard time, because it's like, who do you pick at that point?
Yeah,
right. And these guys can also run after the catch, and they're consistent.
Yeah. Oh, God.
So outside of I still do think in terms of the passing game specifically, that was an outlier. Not super sure defensively if that was an outlier yet. We'll have to see. But in terms of the passing game, I do think that was an outlier. And I think the interesting thing was you did not see them switch to small ball sort of conservative play. You saw them keep going down the field. Now, I do think they should have not abandoned the run as early as they did, because at one point the run was acquiring more efficient yards per sort of play than the pass was, and they just went all pass, which is not great. But other than that, like I really, the way that you can see it in the design, they went out for a reason and got complementary receivers and started building different elements, particularly into Van Jefferson's plan. For his development plan, and expanded that as well. And so now you've got 3 guys who just sort of, and I keep bringing up like solar system references, but they sort of orbit around science rules. And I just sort of, they sort of like orbit around Matthew Stafford and do a lot of different things. And then every once in a while, there's like a solar flare, and that's Deshaun Jackson streaking downfield.
God, that was good.
Yeah.
You're on point.
So
No, that was
sometimes
good.
I can pull it together.
I didn't do well in
sometimes I can
science,
pull it
but I got
together.
that.
That was amazing. She
Yeah,
said
yeah.
every now and then you get a solar flare, and that's Deshaun Jackson for 6. I love it. I'm with you.
I like that. I like that.
Are we going to see... Oh, I'm trying to think of one now, my damn self.
What? You try to make a science reference? We don't
I
gotta get that.
I
nerdy
was
on the show.
really trying to, especially with that new China route, because I'm digging it.
Is that the name of the
Ocho.
Hunter Renfro? Is that the
Ocho.
Hunter Renfro?
So
Cooper Kupp route?
yes. So in Jordan's story that she has posted now on The Athletic, it's all about Cooper Kupp, and then it talks about his lovely new route called the Ocho. And on the broadcast, they call it the China route. It's added to the China route, I should say, but the Rams
Yes.
called the Ocho. What are the chances that we see that route in the game on Thursday night?
Yeah, they got to get to the red area first, I think, right? Like, I'm
I don't
still
think we'll have a
after
problem doing
after
that.
last week. No, I think. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him pull it out. I know they worked on there's a couple of things that they haven't run yet that I saw in training camp that I think will be interesting. And I just love that whole like him design, like it's just football, how it's supposed to be, right? Drop a play in the dirt and go run it. Like that's just what I loved about it was. They just that's kind of what I said at the beginning of the podcast. It's like they're not saying no to stuff, they're asking why not. And I think that's really important. And I also loved how that name of it kind of took on a life of its own too, because now when they refer to it, they'll go like the Ocho, because duck, dive, dip, dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge. You do that on the route, and it's a dodgeball reference. And
I love that.
Yeah. So I was like, these guys are having a lot of fun with that stuff. And I think that's a sort of an important, like, sort of glimpse into that creative process and how much fun they can have with this stuff.
Is there a relationship between Hunter and Cooper? Did they talk
Are you just asking if all the wide receivers know each other? Did you just asking it?
Well, that's...
I'm pretty sure you asked.
No,
Throw
because...
some more in there. What's the dude's name from Tampa? Scotty Miller. Just ask if they all hang out in the offseason.
No, the reason why is because Cooper got that route from the homie Hunter. So I wanted to see
he
if
did?
if there was any...
There is some debate on that, I will say.
There is some debate. Okay,
There's some debate on that. That is my fair understanding and assessment, but I do believe that in all of these league circles, players, it's such a copycat league, and coaches do this too, and everyone's like, oh yeah, no, you thought it, I thought of this, no, you thought of it, no, I thought of it, no, you thought of it. And I do know that they certainly had a time where it existed in the same space during Raiders-Rams joint practices. So that much I do know. The universe did not implode with two China routes in the same space. So we have that going for us as a society, I guess.
All right.
China, the Ocho, it's like a quadruple move. That's tough to guard.
But that stuff that language comes out of the Shanahan playbook too. So if you're going to really trace, maybe this will be my off-season deep dive, is who really invented this?
Ooh.
Where did this really come from? Like the family tree. No pun intended for route tree, but like the family tree of the genealogy of where this route really came from.
Yeah, it's a good route.
That. Yeah, someone should let 24 on the Bucks know where it came from. Because was that Carlton Davis?
Boy, he was lost.
Yeah, Cooper
He said,
Kupp
"What are you doing? Oh, you're scoring a touchdown.
Who
my
did
bad."
Hunter do it? Hunter did someone bad. A good corner.
He did it.
It's a good corner. What's a good corner on the Dolphins' name?
Oh, Xavier Rhodes.
Oh, Xavier Rhodes.
No,
Xavier
Howard. Xavier Howard.
Yeah,
there
we
we
had
go.
the same thought. Yeah.
He got
Jordan.
did bad.
No, I thought the same thing as you. Yeah.
Yeah, Renfro did him. That's the first time I seen the route in the game, and I was like, "Good God, what
week
is that?"
1. He said
that was week 1.
Yeah, week 1, because Jordan put it in her story, and I was like, "That's right." And then 2
was...
weeks later, Cooper was like, "I'm gonna do it as well."
Yeah, no, that's let's stay with King Deceptive Speed here for our over under. Let's see what do we got. What do we got the over under at? We're gonna go with Cooper Kupp receiving yards over under 89.5. What do you got for Cooper on Thursday night? King Deceptive Speed.
I will take the over, but not by much. I'll say 90 because it won't be by much. Yeah, right. Just over. Yeah.
He's probably averaging a little bit more than that this year. But
he was before yesterday. It was 120 per game.
Jeez.
Probably lower now. Obviously.
Goodness, 120. God,
but
damn.
I know.
Keep that pace.
Of course not.
If he averaged 89.5, that would probably lead the league.
He was on pace for 2,000. I think 2,200. I was like, nah.
Yeah.
And I accidentally typed in 16 games instead of 17 when I was calculating that. So I was like, yeah, that's probably not gonna happen.
You know, I should know because I have him in fantasy and I'm just destroying everyone right now. So
yeah, I could imagine.
shout out Cooper.
Yeah.
Are you the 7 a.m. in a Bridal Path team?
Yeah,
in that
man.
league?
Shout
That's
out
you.
Yeah, come on.
Oh damn, yeah, you are. I'm bad in that league. I didn't know. I didn't. It doesn't say whose names it's who. I didn't know that was. I'm bad in that league. All right, that's hold on, real quick. Extrapolating numbers. Did you guys see the tweet from the Cardinals after Chandler had 5 sacks in week 1?
I did.
It was
not.
like he's on pace for whatever 17
Oh, it
times
was
5
89
is.
sacks or something. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah,
that
crazy.
was kind of funny.
I suck at math, but you get the point.
Yeah, I don't know what 17 times 5 is off the top of my head, but there was like that's how many sacks he's on pace for. I thought that
ridiculous.
Was really that was really funny. All right, this is Jordan's favorite part of the show. It's the ending of the show.
We're 2-2.
Where we just kind of cyberbully Jordan into making a pick.
I hate doing this.
Because it is our show and she's the guest and we're not giving her a choice. So we got the line. Give us the line real quick. Well, it gives Jordan
the
time
line.
to think of her excuse for not making a pick.
Ain't no excuse. She knows the drill.
No, we know. What is? I would guess.
I always come into this hoping you guys forget, and you never do.
What? We never forget. It's Rams minus 2.5.
Wow, Rams are a road favorite in a divisional game on a short week coming off of a loss. All right, who you got? What's the over-under to?
Over-under is 54.5.
4.5. All right, Jordan, what you got?
I'm going to go Rams.
Of course.
All right.
I think I picked the Seahawks a couple of times.
I think you picked the Seahawks in the
last
time they played.
Know. Yeah, let your audience know.
There's no way you were picking John Wofford.
Chris, you better tell them the truth.
You remember John Wofford?
Let's not say we don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Seahawks lost that game, by the way.
Well, last time I saw him, he was in an ambulance. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
That's true as well.
Sure he got carted out of there. All right. So Rams, give us a score.
I'm going to do Rams 34. Seahawks 28.
That's definitely taking the over. All right.
Yeah, that is.
And the over, yes.
So our beat, this is the 2-2 on the screen here. Their beat Revs are 2-2.
2-2, you got it.
Yeah. Is anybody correct in picking the team they cover?
Actually, so far,
I don't think so.
No, everyone's been wrong because Barrows picked the Niners to win. They lost. Ben picked the Seahawks to win.
And the
Titans won. And then for the Vikings, actually, Chad picked the Vikings. And he was correct.
Shout out to Chad Graff. He picked the Vikings.
So
and then Stephen Holder picked the Colts, and then the Colts sucked because Carson Wentz.
Stephen Holder thought he was just going to have a nice normal year.
Nope.
Oh no, they came with the COVID. A million injuries to all the good players.
Starting off 0-3.
Yeah, no, they're bad. All right, so we got Jordan on the record there. There we go. We will not. We promise.
Kicking and screaming.
We will not do what the Chargers apparently did to our expert picks and just use that after the game. Hopefully the Seahawks don't find this. I do know that then the PR staff, they listen to the pod. So who knows? Maybe they won't get to the end to see. Who knows?
I will just I'm not gonna do that.
No, we could tweet out as a teaser.
Definitely.
Just the prediction.
No. But I always don't do that because I always pick with respect. I'm not really a trash talker. I always pick with respect to the effort and attitude of everybody on the field that day. That's my best Sean McVay impression.
Yes. That's good. That was very
excellent.
That was very coach speak. I'm willing to trash some other teams a little bit more here. Like I watched a little bit of Cardinals Jaguars and I was like, good God, this is.
I probably would trash the Jaguars if the opportunity presented itself.
Their coach is getting lap dances instead of riding home with the team. They got some problems.
They have deeper issues than who's starting at corner for them.
Yes, they do. All right, Jordan, before we get you out of here, you got anything coming up you want to plug, even if it's just some game day coverage? This is coming out Wednesday, so anything this week you want to plug for our Seahawks fans?
Yeah, I actually really want to plug my colleague Michael Sean Dugar's work over at The Athletic Seattle. I got to.
She was waiting. She was waiting.
I walked into that. I did.
But in all seriousness, I know every time these two teams match up, Mike and I have the best time on game day. We really try to get the insights going. I always have the best time on this podcast. Gonna have to return the favor at some point. We recorded a terrible time, the 11 Personnel podcast. It's usually like early on Mondays, which is awful. It's the worst. So we try not to force people to do that, but we'll definitely have to return the favor here on 11 Personnel. But otherwise, make sure that you guys are following Mike's work. If you're listening to this, you definitely already are.
Oh yeah.
Can't say enough good things about it. And I just like watching him shake his head over there and try to defer. How does it feel?
No, it's fine. I walked into that. That's okay. That's good.
Let's walk right into
Yeah,
it.
no,
Yeah.
I did. I set myself up for that.
It's okay.
But that is Jourdan Rodrigue. It's his podcast appearance number 87 million. It feels like we're looking forward to more, especially if one of them is again previewing a playoff matchup. Make sure you go follow all of her work. She does a good job explaining how the Rams stink and how they perform and why everything happens the way it does for that team, which is really hard to do given NFL access. And Jourdan does a good job with
Facts.
that. So,
Speaking of 87 million, since we nerded out on science, before you go, Jourdan, how far is the Earth to the sun?
what? I'm gonna Google it. I don't know
Whatever
the answer.
distance Kyler Murray was from the Rams pass
Good
rushers.
answer.
I guess that was 93 million miles away. Alrighty then.
Oh, it's in kilometers. I don't know how to convert that. All right.
Dang, Mike, just type in miles, G.
Bro, all I did was Google how far is Earth from the sun. I don't
Just
bro,
type in miles.
You see, I didn't shout out my science teacher, right?
Okay.
I shouted out my English teacher. My science teacher kicked me out. All right, that was not.
There
all right.
you have it.
We're gonna
A
sign off.
scientific man-to-man featuring Jourdan
Thank you,
Rodrigue.
Jourdan. Are you coming up to Seattle?
Yeah, I'll be there. I fly out Wednesday morning, so I'll see you guys soon. I'm very excited.
All right. This is Seahawks Man to Man podcast. If you already got this far into the episode, you know who we are. You know where to follow us. Just make sure you're listening or you're watching on YouTube. Even if you listen on Spotify, just go subscribe on YouTube anyway.
Yes, we're
helps us
almost
out.
there.
We're trying to get to 1,000 so we can
Almost.
start doing fancy. Chris can start doing fancy stuff. Shouldn't say weeks. I don't know how to do anything with any of the production part. So please do that. We appreciate the love. We will catch you guys after the game on Thursday night. We're out.